once in a blue moon, there's something that sweeps everyone off their feet, so much that it actually turns into a fad. Once this fad ends, another one spouts up from your ass, like Ubisoft making excuses for PC games to be 30 frames per second, or Alejandro giving Pupa a 6, but I digress. When Sharkeisha's drama died down, twerking became a thing. When twerking ended, the Ice Bucket Challenge became a thing. This constant rising and falling of fads is the same thing that happens in anime. In 2011, Dead Man Wonderland became the go-to casual anime. When 2012 hit, that changed to SAO, and when 2013 hit, well... The Seven Deadly Sins had a lot of hype going into the fall season. Many were saying,
"This is gonna be the next big thing."
While others said,
"This is gonna be shit."
And with Naruto ending sometime in November, the inevitable question of what's the next big thing has to be answered. But is the answer to that question Nanatsu no Taizai, aka the Seven Deadly Sins? Let's find out! To answer the question simply, no. Number 1, The Seven Deadly Sins is only 25 episodes, and number 2, it isn't even licensed for Blu-ray or DVD release, or for streaming sites such as Crunchyroll, Hulu, Funimation. Who buys Funimation? But this doesn't mean the anime is bad in any way. Actually, it's a pretty solid show. The story for the most part is nothing new. The Seven Deadly Sins, a group of evil knights who conspired to overthrow the kingdom of Britannia, were said to have been eradicated by the Holy Knights, although some claim that they still lived. 10 years later, the Holy Knights have staged a coup d'etat and assassinated the king, becoming the new tyrannical rulers of the kingdom. Elizabeth, who is the daughter of the former king, escapes the palace during her father's execution. To obtain peace and wreak justice, Elizabeth searches for the Seven Deadly Sins. So far, there have not been any surprises in the story other than episode 4, which shows that the plot armor will be limited as much as possible in this series. Many times the story takes a darker approach than expected. The backstories of our characters are not as lighthearted as the art style may make you want to think. It's somewhat like Madoka Magica if you think about it. You have this art style that's really meant to appeal to women or little girls, and then it turns out that everybody gets mass murdered, so that's great. Now, if only Akame ga Kill was good at that.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Speaking of the art, the color palette is very vibrant. In episode 1, there's a ton of green, but because they're in a forest and not a fucking cave, I'll let that slide. However, if you do choose to watch this anime, make sure you lower the brightness of your monitor going into episode 1. Imagine watching Fooly Cooly while tripping on acid. Okay, that might not be that bad, but you get the point. Some parts of the art looked very detailed, while other parts looked like they were drawn by 4-year-olds. Autistic ones at that. This is a case where I wish A1 either did this show another season or cut down on the amount of shows they're doing, because the art and animation are the biggest downsides of this show. The animation is very average for a show, but in some cases it bumps up Noragami's level of fidelity. But that's at its best. The lightning sphere scene from episode 2 looked fantastic animation-wise, but it suffered in the art department. The show doesn't have a problem striking a balance, it has a problem with consistency, and sadly, this is because of A1 Pictures. A1 tends to dump all their budget into shitty shows while making good shows suffer in these departments because they know the Blu-rays will sell regardless of the quality and effort put into the content given. Look at Sword Art Online. The content's garbage, but the art and animation look great, so they were just like, hey, it's gonna sell, let's, yeah, you get the point. Music-wise, meh. When you hear that Hiroyuki Sawano is working on something, you expect to find some epic tracks. But honestly, this is probably Sawano's weakest OST since Zombieland in 2007. The songs are by no means bad, but they are forgettable past the opening theme that plays during the prologue of each episode. The opening itself and the ending, that's a combination of flowing Grand Rodeo, aka Code Geass X Goriko. Wouldn't that make for a pretty feisty yaoi? After coming off of Aldenoa Zero, I was hoping Sawano had something in store for us, but I guess he's too busy making some more things for All to know is Season 2! Then you have the characters. You have Meliodas, who is the leader of the 7 Deadly Sins. He's a cocky pervert, to say the least. But at least he's very enjoyable and he's loyal to his friends. Aw, Nakama Power. Isn't that so adorable, you little bit? Elizabeth is pretty much this show's Hinata. The only difference is that Elizabeth is at the focal point in this show rather than watching everything on the sideline. Elizabeth does 3 things: cries, heals, walks. That's about it. Sure, there's a caring, loving individual, but she doesn't progress the story or plot in any shape or form until really episode 4. She mainly serves as a purpose to give Meliodas personality, but that's not needed because the first 2 episodes clearly define him as a pervert. In short, you could call her what I like to call a shitty character. You also have a lovable pig that goes by the name of Hawk, who honestly, in my opinion, is the most interesting character in the show so far. That may seem like a long stretch, but it's true. Hawk is the only character that genuinely cares about his own safety. He also has way more emotion compared to Meliodas, who's unrealistically cocky, and Elizabeth, who just... Overall, the characters are enjoyable, but as always, they have their flaws. One problem that I do have with this show is the same problem I had with a significant portion of Kill la Kill for quite some time. In episode 4, there are multiple scenes where characters are stating things that simply don't need to be stated. Oh my god, that guy had stakes in his arm. Okay.
That guy has stakes in his arm.
Yeah, that guy you're standing next to just told me.
That guy has fucking snakes in his arm.
You don't fucking say! Aside from that, the show is solid. The music isn't amazing, but it sounds good enough to get the sound of the Ronia birds out of my head. Or Fate Zero being a 10. The animation isn't amazing, but I wasn't honestly expecting much coming from A1 Pictures since they're constantly doing 18 shows a week, because fuck quality. The characters are entertaining and the show is really vibrant. Should you watch Nanatsu no Taizai? Yes, I think you'd be missing out if you didn't. It has a lot of potential, but it hasn't been unlocked yet, or licensed.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!